Hey, what's up everybody? So in this video I've got a couple different things I want to talk about. First of all, my Ajax course, which many of you may have already taken, is now free, available at DevSprout.io, so go ahead and check that out. If you haven't taken it, you can get it for free, run through it, and learn how to use Ajax with jQuery to build a simple single page application with an Express backend. Okay, so moving on to the topic of this video, Ruby Basics. I had a course that I was collecting emails for on DevSprout.io because I was going to build this Ruby course, and I recorded a handful of lectures for it. I even released a couple of them, and as I find time I'll edit and release the other ones too. But what I discovered is that it's just not as popular as a lot of the other topics that people want me to create in the channel and on DevSprout for free content and for the courses that I'll be charging for. So I've canned that for now, but I want to go ahead and tell you, if you're interested in learning Ruby or Ruby on Rails or both, I want to tell you exactly how you can get started, how you can get from A to Z, from not knowing any Ruby or any Ruby on Rails to being able to write Ruby really well and also be able to build web apps and applications with Ruby on Rails, the framework. So first things first, in a different video I already introduced Learn to Program. This is a really great book written by a guy, Chris Pine. This is how I learned Ruby. The website is free. They have all these chapters that you can go through, and they'll teach you the basics of Ruby. If you buy the book, it has way more information on it. I'm not saying you have to buy the book. There's tons of other resources out there, and I'm going to show you some of them. But if you want to support this guy, it's a great book, and I think you'll learn a lot, and it's nice to be able to reference it. Okay, so the next one is Derek Banis. If you've heard of him, he's huge on YouTube, and he's got a Ruby programming in 1 hour, just under 1 hour. You can see this is a really popular video. So it's a good video. I would highly recommend it. Just run through it if you have an hour, or if you have what I have here, I can just turn up the speed. I have an extension in Chrome that allows me to speed up my videos on YouTube. Then you can watch it in like double time or time and a half. I'd be interested to hear what he sounds like. Hold on.
And welcome to my Ruby programming tutorial. In this one tutorial, I'm going to cover pretty much 95% of the Ruby programming language, all of the basic syntax. And Ruby is basically a dynamic interpreter.
Yeah, so in my opinion, Derek already has a kind of an interesting voice to begin with, so when you speed it up, it sounds pretty funny. Not in a bad way, of course. But okay, so moving on. If you want to learn Rails, same guy, Derek Banis, he also has a Rails tutorial. It's actually a 3-part series. You can see part 1 here and then part 2, and if you click on part 2, it'll show you part 3. So that's one way to learn Rails. I'm going to show you a couple other ways. But back to Ruby before you get to Rails. Once you've read this book or gone through this 1 hour tutorial, or you've done both of those and you want to expand on that knowledge, then you can check out hacker.io. They've got all the free tutorials, and they've got kind of like a rating system so you can see which tutorials are better than others. And at the top right here, they have Learn Ruby the Hard Way. Apparently it's a free book. I don't know if it's the full version or not. I know that guy does like Learn Python the Hard Way, stuff like that, and he has like a shorter book and then the full book, kind of like with Learn to Program by Chris Pine. In any event, it's rated pretty high, so go ahead and check that out. Of course, Code Academy down here, Wise Pointed Guide to Ruby is really good. Kind of an interesting humor that guy has, but he's good at teaching Ruby as well. I remember doing that one way back when I learned how, so I would definitely check that out. And then they've got a bunch of other ones, some I've never even heard of. At the very top, they've got Learn to Code with Ruby on Udemy. This is featured, someone's paying for that, and it's a paid course, so and it has zero ratings, so I would not recommend doing that one. But definitely some of these free resources I would check out if I were you. So once you have a handle on the Ruby programming language, which does not take long, literally you could learn most, if not all, of the basics in one day, or even shorter than that, an afternoon, and then over the course of a couple days after you've done some exercises and stuff, you could feel pretty comfortable writing applications and writing programs with it. Then you can move on to Rails. So the Rails guides are really great. This is from the official Ruby on Rails documentation. They have guides that they have literally everything that you could want to do in Rails. They've covered it. So guides.rubyonrails.org. Don't worry about all these URLs. I'm going to put them in the description for the video so you can access them easily. But basically it gets you set up and running with the installation for Rails, and it tells you what Rails is, quick history about it, and then it runs you all the way through building a CRUD application, create, read, update, destroy, And the CRUD application is just your average blog like you would build with Express or with Django or any other MVC web framework. Okay, so it's really easy to follow. I would recommend going through this and doing the rubber duck debugging type teaching method where if you don't have someone there that you can go through it with and teach them as if you were the teacher instead of the student, then go ahead and get out your rubber duck or your toy or whatever you have and teach that inanimate object as if you were the teacher. It's a really great way to teach, or great way to learn rather, is you learn by teaching. So this, again, Rails Guides, great tutorial. In my opinion, one of the best ways to learn Ruby on Rails. And then once you want to move on to something a little more advanced, then go check out Michael Hartle's Ruby on Rails tutorial. He's got the book. I think you can pay for it. I don't know if the paid version is much different than the free version, but he's got everything you need right here. And this stuff stays pretty well up to date. This is Rails 5, latest version of Rails. And you can see he's just got an exhaustive list of things in here that you can run through. Okay, so that's pretty much it for Rails. Like I said, you can also get Derek Banis Ruby on Rails tutorials on YouTube if you want to go through those. So there's a bunch of different mediums for you to go through if you want to learn through video or if you want to learn through reading. The most important thing obviously is getting your hands dirty and building something. So that's why I recommend doing something like the Rails Guides where you actually go through and build out a blog application, because that's where you're going to run into the errors and run into the problems. You're going to have to search on Stack Overflow. You're going to have to do the rubber duck debugging, and that's where you're really going to have to work through things. And when you're done with it and you struggle a little bit, it's all going to make sense, and you're going to feel a lot better, and you're also going to have learned it much quicker than you would have if you just like watched a video and then came back and tried to do it on your own or something like that. I'm not saying the videos are bad. I definitely would use the videos as a supplement to something like the Rails Guides, but that's just how I would do it. This is how I did it way back when I learned Ruby and then learned Ruby on Rails several years ago. So if you haven't heard about Ruby or Ruby on Rails and you're still watching the video, then let me go ahead and give you a brief rundown. Basically, Ruby is a super easy language to learn. It was designed to be as human readable as possible. So the syntax doesn't have a ton of those like curly brackets. It has something called syntactic sugar, which just makes it easier to read. You don't have to write a lot of the same syntax that you would get with like Java or C or even JavaScript, languages like that. Super straightforward language, quick and easy to pick up, very powerful at the same time, so you're not giving up any of the capabilities that you would have with another scripting language. And then the Rails framework, super famous framework, used by a lot of startups, also a lot of bigger companies, and it's one of its main selling points is that it's just super easy to get up and running with. You can build a blog in like 15 minutes. You can watch a video on YouTube of someone building a blog in like 5 minutes, and it's just great for prototyping. If you have an idea, you're not super big into programming, or you haven't been programming for very long and you want to get that idea up and running quickly for a startup or for whatever, then Rails is definitely the way to go. You are giving up some things like speed in certain areas. These aren't things you're going to notice as an entry-level developer, and there are ways to optimize it and then use it with other languages and frameworks and runtimes to get faster speeds. So that's kind of stuff you don't really have to worry about as a entry-level developer or even a mid-level developer. And like I said, lots of larger companies and startups alike are using Ruby on Rails, so it's not like it's like horribly slow or anything like that. So both Ruby and Ruby on Rails, great language, great framework to learn. I would highly recommend it. These are the first ones that I learned when I was learning to program, and if you already know another language like JavaScript or Node.js on the back end, then it's going to be really easy for you to segue and transition into learning Ruby and Ruby on Rails. So that's pretty much it. Again, here's Michael Hartle's book. I'll put all these links into the description. And last but not least, if you're working on Windows, there is a Rails installer for Windows. In my experience, there are a lot of bugs that you can run into. That was several years ago. I haven't used Rails on Windows or even on Mac in a while because I've been doing so much JavaScript stuff. But I do know that Rails, back when I was using it, wasn't playing super friendly with Windows, And I actually switched. I started out with Windows when I was learning Rails. I switched to Linux. It works great with Linux, and then I switched to Mac. It also works really great with the Mac operating system. So if you're using Windows, go ahead and try it with the Rails installer. But you can also, if you want, sign up for the original C9. I have the instructions here. I'll put this link down in the description below. You can get C9.io, the cloud-based workspace or development environment, for free. You don't have to use a credit card or anything like that. Just put your email up here, send it in. You'll get a link in your inbox. You can sign up, and then you just set up the Rails environment, and it's already going to have Ruby on Rails, everything set up for you. So the amount of time it's going to take you to get up and running with like the Rails tutorial or even the Ruby tutorials is going to be very quick. So you don't have to worry about all the local setup, things like that. So it's a good way to get started if you just want to start learning right away. So that's it for this video. I won't hold you up any longer. Go ahead and check out these links. I'll put them in the description. And again, before I go, Ajax is free right now. But I also have the Stripe checkout. It's only $1.50. If you like my videos and you want to see more content from me, please support me by purchasing this cheap course. If, of course, you are a JavaScript developer and want to learn more about integrating Stripe with your Express.js framework. Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.